How are you doing? Okay, I
Very
got
good. Very good.
come up so you can see me.
Oh, you're there. You're real. You're live. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm
So,
amazing. I'm in LA. It's sunny.
yeah, but how's the traffic?
We don't talk about the traffic.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back behind the computer because I'm going to do a little introduction, then I'll just let you take it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to hide. Okay, we can still see it in the corner. That's good. Okay, so this week we've got Drew Tyler. He has over 18 years of editing, storytelling, and live event and television production experience. He was the main digital media advisor and taught digital media, film, and live event production classes as a faculty member in the communication department at Weber State University. This was my teacher, so he's the one that taught me the basics of video production. So I'm excited to have him here. And for nearly a decade, he currently works as a program manager over partnership productions at Facebook in Los Angeles. He has a page with tutorials on Final Cut Pro 10, Motion 5, Premiere Pro, Creative Cloud, and more called Drew Tyler. And there's a link on Canvas to that. And then he's going to talk about some resources too that I've also linked to from Canvas. I don't think you guys can see this now, but I will publish it today so that you can see it and you can get to all the links. So, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Drew.
Okay, I will see if I can share my screen, and I'll just dive right in with some things to talk about. But thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I miss teaching a lot, so this is kind of a cool opportunity for me to kind of telecommute back to Utah and do a little teaching. I do a lot of fun things out here in Facebook land, but not enough teaching for me yet. So Matt asked me to share. I don't know. Do you call him Matt? Professor Matt? Maybe it's Master Havertz. Is that what
I just have him call me my name, so
that's probably, yeah. I tried to get people to call me Master Drew for a while. It didn't stick very long. But one thing that I love is I love creating things. So let me share, if I can, my screen, and let's see if that will get us to where I want to go. That should be there. That should be there. And if all is working right, you should see my basic video editing screen. Yes?
Yep.
All right, the gentleman that's sitting right next to the camera, by the way, with the red sleeves. Yep, you are like the only source that I have for reactions to anything I say. So I need lots of head nods and yeses, giggles. Yeah, you're because I can only see like tops of little bits of heads of people, but I assume there's more than just you there. Anyway, yeah, you're my sole connection.
Just so you know, we've got like about 30 or so students in the face-to-face class, and there's an online class that are going to see this too that are like 20 more. So
look at you, man. Oh wow. I love this stuff, teaching this stuff. One of my favorite things about storytelling is the actual crafting that happens with the digital files and stuff. So I thought today I would take a half hour. If I start to go too long, Matt, just stop me. But I could do this stuff for hours. So yeah, keep me honest.
Yeah, no, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. So I want to start off basic video editing. It is all about storytelling, but I want to take a second and just mention that it's not about the tool. When you get into video editing or any type of content creation, you start to hear a little bit of people taking sides of what they use and why the other one sucks and theirs is better. But I just wanted to remind you, I don't know if any of you know this game. I'm kind of an old school gamer, but Gauntlet, you could play one of four characters: the guy with the magic, or the axe, or the sword, or even the archer with the bow. But all of those things still get the job done. And so what I'm going to teach you today is specific to one particular tool, but there are many other tools out there that will make the job happen. So it's all storytelling for me. It's all tools in the way that you use them. And so it doesn't matter which weapon you've got, you're going to be able to tell some cool stories. So getting into the nuts and the bolts of it, there are three main parts to editing. And really, to like put them simply, the first one is importing. Can I get the things that I've created and or captured, whether that's graphics or audio or the video that I've shot, can I get it in to my editor? Second, the editing part where I put it in the right order. And the third one, which is exporting. Once I get it together in one sort of order or another, I need to be able to also share it. I have to be able to get it out somewhere, or else it's worthless. I like to think of these as getting it in, deleting the crap, and then getting it out. That's kind of the three parts that I put in when I when I edit? Can I get everything into one place? Do I have all the pieces I need? Then can I get rid of everything I don't want that doesn't shine, and then push out the very prettiest, most perfect, version of the thing that I'm working on? So let's dive in. I'm gonna load up my Final Cut right here so that we can jump in and walk through a couple of things. Matt, in your class, does everybody have access to
Yes.
Final Cut Pro? Yes.
And I asked them to pull it up. So if you guys want to follow along, like feel free to have this pulled up so you can do it with him.
Yep. How much have you had any time to talk about like parts and pieces and how it's set out, or is this first entrance?
We've talked about, I looked at your cheat sheet. There's things on there that we haven't talked about, but we've talked about like basically assembling clips together and cutting clips, and putting these together, but just like the basics, right? And then I kind of went over, I mean, I showed them how to import and export, but you probably are going to do a much better job at explaining some of that kind of stuff.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start. Let me pull this full screen after we make a new library. And I'll walk through some things. Feel free to shout out if you have questions, just because I can answer them on the flow. You're not going to disrupt me. I ramble for hours. And so if you have a question, shout it out or raise your hand, and Matt can call you so that I can address something while we're in the moment. I'm just going to start by opening the library. One of the main things to understand about Final Cut is the way that it handles files. If you understand the way that it's going to handle your assets and your files, you're already a step ahead of like being organized and getting things put together. So the way that it works is it will have a library for each and every project that you do. You can create a library. Sometimes you can create a project that's like ongoing. A library that's ongoing that you might use for, say, multiple versions of something. I have a library for a documentary that I did. I have libraries for different conferences that I've created content at. I had a library that contained all of the content for each of my classes. So lots of reasons to have a library. For us, I'm just going to create a new one right here. I'm just going to call it sample. The thing to know about libraries is that they stick around. They're really easy to move around. And so one of the hardest things about editing with any editor is once I put some stuff together and I want to start assembling it, and I change computers, or if I move or even detach a hard drive or clear out my downloads folder or anything like that, all of a sudden stuff goes missing. And so the library keeps everything in one place all together and allows you to kind of not fret, not worry that your stuff might get lost. So I started by hitting new library. If you're already in Final Cut and you want to create one and it didn't give you that option to choose one, you can always go File, New, and start with the new library this way. And I'll give you that same pop-up and I'll say, what do you want to call it? Where do you want to keep it? The nice thing about the library, again, is that it puts everything together. And so one preference that you might want to check on, and I do this when I start new projects. If you look at preferences under that Final Cut Pro tab, just jump in there with me now if you're there. One of the main things that I told them I'm not available. Okay. I'm about ready to go to Amsterdam in a couple of days to do a show. And so it's like the day before where everybody's like, did we think of this? Did we think of that? So I'll try. They'll be fine for a while while I'm not here. So if you are here looking at your preferences pop-up, click on that import arrow and double check right here where it says files. You have two options. One is copy to the library storage location, which is the library that we just made, or leave the files in place. This is totally up to you, your workflow. I have a workflow where when I start a new project, I will pull all the raw footage in and I'll keep it in one place. And that's what I'll use for my project. And if I'm going to move my project around, I will switch it over to copy. And so for beginners, this is probably the best way to get working. So especially if you're working on a computer at school and then you're going to leave and take that project somewhere else and then come back to maybe a different computer, or if your computer's like ours at my school would just delete every night. So if you're carrying this stuff around, make sure that your preference is set to copy to the storage location. When you do that, I'm going to switch mine back real quick, but when you do that, everything that you put into your project walks away with you. When I go to my Finder, and I'll just jump over real quick and we'll pull that up because I think I made this right here. Oh, I was doing some demos in a couple different places, so this actually might be in a different place. But you can see in here that I have some libraries that exist already. You can see that they're right here. I have lots of, there's one called Untitled, there's Dale's Date. Those libraries are built so that I can copy and paste those. I can move them into a hard drive and walk away with them, and I'll have everything that I need. And that's key. What I'm getting at here is whenever you build something like this, you want to be able to put it in one place, copy the files in, and so anything you use in that project walks away with you. Now, you've probably looked a little bit at the interface here. Underneath of the library, you'll have multiple events. When I do things like maybe I'll do a project where somebody wants me to do a vignette about their business, but they also want a behind the scenes that they can show later on. I'll create an event because they're two different things. I'll create two different events. Your library will always come with one event because it has to have something. And so you can create other events really easily doing a right click, new event, and give it a name, and it'll add in multiple events. The way I like to think about these is these are basically like a filing cabinet with filing drawers. The sample library is a big giant cabinet where I can put as many drawers as I want, but each drawer is going to have all the things that pertain to that particular section. So if I have something I want to get started on right now, I have these two. They're just basically after today's date, which is 9/9/19, by the way. And now I can import. So I'm just going to hit the import button here. Final Cut has like 5 ways to do everything. So if I show you something that Matt hasn't shown you, or if you haven't found it yourself, it's probably just one other way to do the same thing. This import window will show me all the content that is on my machine. If you have a card, like an SD card that you've shot on, or if you have a phone that you've uploaded a bunch of footage and it shows up in your downloads folder, all that can be navigated to easy right here. I can go to my folder and find my downloads. I know that I have a bunch of footage that I'm using right here under intermediate footage. So if I click on that, it takes me to this section. And I can click on full folders if I want, and just add a bunch of them at one time. And then if I go over to the right, now that I've selected a couple of these, if I click on them, you'll see them like specifically, you'll see the clips that I'm talking about. But since I've got these built into folders, and I can share this short with you, it's pretty hefty. It's a couple of gigs. In fact, it might be 10 or more gigs, but I can put it somewhere you guys could download it if you'd like. It's for a tutorial that I'm building for the advanced Final Cut class, but it's a bunch of clips that have already been shot, right? And you just have to put them together as a puzzle. So that's what I'll be using today.
Oh, cool.
But that's kind of a fun way to do it. If you're learning how to edit and you still have to go out and learn how to shoot and shoot a bunch of stuff the right way to then edit it, it may feel a little bit slower. But if I can hand you some things and say, try these out and try to make them come together in this way, here's a script, it might give you something to kind of jumpstart and start building those stories.
So far, can I pause you for a minute?
Yep, go ahead.
So far for this week, I'm just having them shoot stuff basically on their phones.
Perfect.
And edit it together. But would you guys find that useful to have some of these clips to edit with? Raise your hand if you would want that. Yeah, so we've got a few people there. So yeah, if you don't make it, if you're going to Amsterdam tomorrow, like don't make it a huge priority. But if you get to it, or when you get to it for your other class, then yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, awesome. What I like about this is that it's a former student who I hired him to just shoot. We'll write a script and then shoot it. And so he gave me all the raw and a script. And with those two pieces, you can kind of assemble your own puzzle and make it your own. So it's pretty cool. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to import this to get started. I can add it to an existing event. I have 2 here, one with one date and one with a 1 on the end because I just duplicated it. But I can also create a brand new event, and I can call this Dale's Date. And I'm making an event, and what it's going to do is it's going to copy everything into that library. If I click right here again, this is similar to that preference tab, but it's for this import only. I can say, take these clips that I just highlighted and actually physically put them in this library so I can walk away with it. And so you'll want to do that again if you're beginning or if you don't care about your hard drive space and you want to make sure everything sticks together, you want to hit that. I'm going to leave mine where they are because I know they're not disappearing. I know where they are. Then I'm just going to jump down and import selected. It's going to grab all those clips and throw them in. And as I click on each one here in the browser, I'll see it pop up to the side. And you can see there's a Dale running section that he ran. This is some stuff in the dark with his dog. It's basically, this is a great story about how Dale gets online and does some dating. He finds a little Tinder app and he finds true love. Or does he? You'll have to tune in to find out. So this is kind of the beginning part of Final Cut, and it really is the part where that's the first half, right? First third. This was the importing. It's that simple to choose a event and put things into it. If I want to add other things, let's say that I have my Finder open and I have something else like, for instance, here's a clip of my kids at a oh, that's cute. It's my kids at a gender reveal party. And so, by the way, Matt, I'm having a baby.
Oh, wow.
Not me.
Did you post this on Facebook or?
No, nobody else knows this. I just told your whole class.
I won't tell
It's
anyone.
because
I'll be looking on Facebook then.
I'm not going to share much there. My youngest is 8, and I'm having a baby boy in February. So I have 3 girls. This is my first boy. I'm stoked.
Man, congratulations.
I'm very shocked, by the way. So if I take this clip and I want to add it to the piece that I'm working on, I can drag it straight from my Finder into Final Cut and just drop it there. That is now a part of the same filing cabinet. I basically put it in a filing cabinet drawer so I can call it and use it when I need to. So now we've got some of these pieces assembling here, but I haven't done anything to delete the crap. And that's the middle part and the fun part of editing. And so I want to spend some time jumping onto that. I need to set up something to put all this stuff in. And that is called, in Final Cut, it's called a project. Most editors will call it a project or a timeline. And it's that part that you're missing down here that says new project. I'm going to click that button. Again, 3 ways to do this. I can click the new project button. I can right click over here and hit new project. I can go clear up to my file tab and hit new project, all doing the exact same thing. I'm creating a space where I'm going to put my best and favorite takes from my clips. So I'm going to hit new project. I'm going to give it a name. I can call it Dale's Date. I can call it like a certain scene from Dale's Date. Whatever I want. This is a timeline. So I can call it timeline. I'm going to leave this right here where it says it's on these automated settings, which means it's going to be set based on the first video clip property. One of the big problems that people run into when they jump headfirst into Final Cut, and any editor really, is figuring out how stuff happens. If I shoot on my phone and I shoot vertically, the pixels are lined up as a rectangle standing up on its head, right? And now that we do a lot of social media this way, I think Snapchat really was the one that kind of cemented this. But now you can get things vertically, right? And it becomes normal. When I was growing up and making my first content, if you saw something this way, you were like, turn it over. It has to go this way because all the TVs are built this way. But now we have TVs that are built this way. I have people at work here, their monitors go that way. Like, it's vertical is fine, or we call it portrait. So if you learn that Final Cut is going to create your timeline based on that first clip that you drop in, then you can hit OK. And it gives you this blank line down here, which is, again, think of this as like the place where you're going to put all the good stuff. And if the first thing that I drop in is this size and shape, and it's vertical, that I shot on my phone holding it vertical, then everything on that line has to match that. So if the first thing I put in is vertical, then anything after that will show up in that same frame and space. Even if I switch it out to be horizontal, second and third clips that I put in there are now going to fit like, I have to close this now. Like, they're going to fit across the middle of that and have a whole bunch of black on top and a whole bunch of black on bottom. And so the habit to get into is, if when you're building a piece, the first thing that you drop down to the line should pretty much be whatever a majority of your clips are. You'll see a majority of my clips here are kind of in this horizontal. Here's a clip of Zach that's running. And so the first clip that I put in, and this is just to set it, I can drop that down in there, and now this is my actual timeline being built out. But it's just a good practice to make sure the first thing you drop in is the same footage as the majority of what your project will be. Sometimes you want to drop in a graphic first, or you want to put a music first, and it asks a lot of questions because it doesn't know. Music doesn't have a size, right? It doesn't have a left and right, up and down. So if you're shooting something this way, make sure the first clip you drop is that way. If you make you're doing a story that is meant to be viewed vertically, then drop that in first. And that kind of sets everything up. I'm going to delete that one just by hitting the delete key. And let's get into the actual part of like editing. Any questions at this point on the importing? This is really pretty easy to kind of get things started. Feeling good? I see some head shakes. We're looking good. All right, rock and roll. So to do the editing, I'll show you real quick. I have a couple of clips here. Are they, I mean, they're really dark for me. Are they dark for you? Do I need to find a new?
Oh, we can see them. They're a little dark. That one's
a little dark. Let's go with these. Okay. So right here, I've got a clip that I can kind of skim across and see all this action. and I can see that it's Tracer. She's just playing and chasing dog toys. The one below it, it looks like a medium shot of Dale kind of on the phone and throwing toys. So to tell the story, I need to be able to put these clips together, because obviously I'm not going to use a full 20 seconds from each clip and just shove them together. I want to be able to pull out the parts that sync them together. My favorite part of editing is making sure like clips that were shot at totally different times look like they happened at the exact same time. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and take this clip, and right now I'm just using my mouse to kind of hover around, but I can also use the arrow keys to go one frame at a time. Arrow, 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 back, back, back. Or I don't know if you showed them this one, Matt, but this is my favorite way to navigate, JK and L. Did you talk about that at all?
No, go ahead.
Okay. JK and L operates almost like a shuttle wheel. And so if you are looking to move forward or even play, you can't hit spacebar. Spacebar will play. Spacebar will play. Or L. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Will you show him real quick? Because I showed him this, but just as a reminder, I can't remember the window that you're on right now where it's showing the clips, the different. Yeah, exactly.
Got it?
Yeah. So just if you guys aren't seeing it the same way he's seeing it, that's what you hit to get. It's the same thing. It just looks a little different. So okay,
excellent.
Sorry.
Good call out. Good call out. That's what we say here at Facebook. Good call out, Matt. Thank you. I've learned so much tech jargon. I don't know what you call it, like big org jargon. So this view right here gives you small clips of everything that's in your timeline, and the longer it is like going to be. And you can even hit this button up here and it'll say, like, there's a tab that says, well, I want to see the audio underneath, or I want to see how big these can get. You can kind of play with these this way. This one right here says 30 seconds. That means that for every 30 seconds of footage on these, I get one thumbnail. So you see this one has 2 or 3 thumbnails right here. These all have one. That means they're less than 30 seconds. If I go down, this one is almost 2 minutes. Does that make sense? That's how that one works. I prefer, and it's mostly because I know what I'm shooting, I almost prefer to run this style, which is list mode. And when I hit list mode, I get the names, I get the durations, but I actually have to click on it to see it. So yes, those are options that you can use. The same thing happens when you choose and you want to use a clip. You can skim like this, and then I was telling you about JKL, and then I'm going to show you how to like select the part that you want, put it down on the line. So JKL operates like a shuttle wheel. L will play forward, K will stop. It's almost like the brake, and J will play backwards. So L starts to play, K will stop me, J will backmask it and start to smoke marijuana. Are these guys too young for that? That was like Another One Bites the Dust, Queen back in the day. Okay, I see some smiles. Good. I do miss teaching. So from this JKL, I can actually navigate really fast up here and down on the timeline, because I can hit L twice, it'll play double speed. L 3 times, it'll play triple speed. The quicker, and again, this is probably just me just being super effective, but I love to work with my shortcuts and without a mouse very often. I would much rather navigate with my keyboards, because I can hit things faster and get things done. But let's go ahead and put some things on the line so we can get something exported. I'm going to take this piece here of Dale, who's playing with his dog. Before he throws that, I don't know, can you guys hear this audio? I'm not sure if I piped that through or not.
We can't hear the audio, but we can see it.
Okay. He yells, he says, just playing fetch with my dog. He's talking on the phone with a girl he hasn't met. And so I'm going to come to this point right before he cocks his arm and he throws it. And I'm just going to tap I. I is that in point, because I want to start my clip here with in. I'll hit L just to play it, or spacebar. Perfect. You can see he kind of tosses that out there, and I hit spacebar to stop it again. And now I'm going to hit O. I is for in, O is for out. And now that I have this clip, I can drag it with my hands and just put it down on the line. And then I can go to the next set of shots where I have Tracer running and catching. I can do the same thing here. So I know that she's going to run and jump and grab it. So I'm going to back up. I to begin. I'll play it through. She almost got it. I'll hit O and I'll drag that down. Now those two clips side by side are really tiny on the line. Something I do all the time and that you probably want to do is you want to see what you're editing, but you don't want to get lost down there. And so the shortcut keys that I use for that are Command plus and Command minus. See, when I hit Command plus, I'm zooming in, and the things that I just laid down are actually just over on this side. There they are. I zoomed in real far. This is like one frame. That gray slice that you see on the screen is a single frame, and I can go so far that it's like half of my timeline is one frame. I'm going to do Command minus so I can see clip 1 and clip 2, and you'll use that a lot, kind of going in and out of pieces that way. And then the other shortcut that I use all the time is Shift Z, and Shift Z will take it so that if I'm zoomed in too far, Shift Z brings it back out to like show me 80% of my entire clip. Or if I'm zoomed in super far and it's super small, Shift Z does the same thing. It kind of brings you to the same place. No matter how long your piece is, it's still going to show you all of it that it can with that Shift Z. Whereas Command plus and minus are going to step you in incrementally, zoom in or zoom out. And the reason why you want that to happen is because right here, I want to make it look like the same thing that he threw is the same thing that Tracer is chasing. To get that, I need to be pretty close to frame accurate. So I'll watch it through once. Felt a little long, so I need to like adjust what's in between there. So once something's down here on the line, I can adjust the handles by hovering. If I hover on that, you can see, and I know this is probably pretty small on your projector, but you can see I have a little film strip that's kind of pointing there to the right. And that means when I click and start dragging, I'm going to be changing the clip to the right. Notice how Tracer's clip is moving? The endpoint is changing. Tracer's on the move now. And if I want to change the one to the left, I just hover just slightly to the left. You'll see that clip now, that film strip points to the left, and I can start moving his side of the clip until I get them together. So when I play them back together, feels a little fast now, so I just add a couple clips back on each side. And really, this is the fun of editing, is finding those motions and actions that you can match on both sides of a clip. And you guys don't even notice this, but when you're watching any movie, Avengers or any TV show or Stranger Things on Netflix, they've done, somebody has sat down and made sure that every edit from clip to clip is the perfect take with the right sound and the right action so that it feels and flows like you were just there watching the whole thing. So that's what we've just done with this dog toss. Perfect. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and let's see if we can add one more real quick. Let's see, let's do one more quick edit. Let's see if I get it right here. I'm just going at the end. There's a part right here where he gets hit with that toy while he's talking because he's ignoring the dog. And so he gets hit with that toy, and so we can kind of cut back to it. And now we've got.
So that's supposed to be like the dog, like throwing it back at him.
Yeah. So the dog says, you know, keep playing with me. So those clips, I can start laying these out and I can tell a whole story from all the different pieces that are here. I've got a close up of him eating, so I can do the same thing with, I've got a breakfast wide. He comes in and starts taking a big bite. So I'm just gonna do the same thing here. And take the bite out. I'll just drag that down on the line. And then I'm gonna go to the close up of eating. And I'm gonna try and find him taking another big bite. There it is right there. In, out, and I'll drag that down. And now I can find out, how do I make it look like I actually was there watching him eat? Feels like he takes 2 bites too quickly right there, so I can actually back this one up. Again, I'm watching that left side. And right when he's almost got that spoon to his mouth, I can match it up with the next clip where that spoon's almost to his mouth. And so he's not quite looking in the same place in these takes, but they kind of start to stitch together like that. So I want you guys to kind of get in and be able to play with some of these clips. So I'll make sure that they're available to you because it's kind of fun to put that through together. But as you're going out and shooting things with your phones this week, think about that same idea of, is there a beginning and an end within the clip that I've just made that will be the one that I want to put on the line? Okay, Matt, have I anything special on that list that you want me to cover in here? I have a lot more.
Oh man, I think that this is really good. You went over a lot of good stuff. Let me look at it real quick. Oh, I think I already had it. Yeah, you guys know Command Z, right? Undo.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
mm, mm, mm. No, I think that's really good. Yeah, do you want to go over some, do you have any tips on exporting that, and
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be sensitive to your time too. If you want to say, nope, I gotta get going, then that's fine too. But
Let me check. I'm pretty sure I booked this room for a whole hour so that in case we needed to stretch a little, I could. We have like 500 people in an office that holds like 300 people. So these
uh,
rooms are special.
do they
All right.
have, because I've heard Facebook's kind of like iconic for that open office space kind of thing. Is that hard to work in?
It's not, it's an adjustment, but like I went from having a very nice desk or a desk in an office. Do you remember my office? It
Yeah.
was beautiful. So now I work on a standing desk and I have a monitor. And so, you know, everything that we do is very open, and the idea is that you bump into people and talk about things. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm like, shh, I'm working. It's fun though. It's fun. And
you still use Beats headphones?
no, I've never used Beats. I use Soul
Oh,
Republic.
oh,
Soul
I thought
Republic
it
are my
was,
favorites.
oh, I thought it was Beats that you used, but I remember you having like
No.
a favorite brand of headphones.
I had these giant. I was like the old man with the big headphones too. That's who I am. Yeah, I still have some of those. So let's talk. Let me show you a couple of quick things just about like the what I call the what do you call it? Like the etymology of a timeline. Where things should go. And to do that, I'm going to open up. I want to open a new library and just kind of show off some of the things that are a good idea for building things. I don't know if that one's going to be good or not. The idea is that as you create things and you make stuff happen, you want to be able to layer things so that it makes sense on your timeline. So I'm going to see if I have anything in here worth showing. I have a workbench here, which means I'm going to have a lot of like useless things. Okay, this might be a little bit helpful. So you can see here that I have a full timeline, and this is the Dale's date, but it's been put together. And so I can take some of these places, and he's going from eating his breakfast. So they shot it with a pan into the wall, which then I faded into a pan away from the, away from the fence to him running. Cut into him tighter. He gets a little alert from his girl. Cut in on his voice. And we do that fun transition from him to get here to here. So all of those pieces had to be shot with that idea in mind, right? That we're going to go from you running into the camera to your back leaving us and playing with the dog, along with those close-ups. But in having all of those, you'll notice that over here, I even have one that's sitting on top. And it's one where the audio stays playing underneath, and yet we can still cut to Tracer catching the toy and then coming back and throwing it up. So these are kind of ways to use that upper level of clips to maintain some of the same timing, but to still cut away to something else. Here's Tracer's barking. Dale is starting to shave, and as Tracer barks, he actually accidentally shaves the wrong part. And he ends up shaving his entire face off. It's pretty great. So in this setup, you can see that where we place things kind of depends on how we want that effect to work. Let's see. I was just working, I wish I had my wife's computer. We were just working on a short documentary where she had run a, I'm not gonna find it, am I? Well, you can kind of see it here. I've run some pieces above and below depending on what needs to be seen or what graphic needs to be shown. And that's something that I think you probably get used to as you pull things together. But I'll show you with one of these. The standard practice is that your main video goes in that timeline. So whatever your primary audio is, if it's dialogue or if it's music, whatever it is goes in that main timeline. And then graphical things, like those elements right there, go one layer above. And music, if you have a bass, like background music, will actually hover down below. And that's kind of the way that you can keep things, anything that's an overlay graphically should go above. Your primary audio content goes in the middle, and then background audio things can all go below, so you can mix all your audio that way. So I wanted to show you that, but let's go ahead and talk about how to get things out. So we take our story here from Dale's date. I'm just gonna go back to it by choosing the project at the very top of this filing cabinet, I have the project itself, so I can load that up, the one that we were just putting together. And if I want to move this out, once I have it the way I like it and I'm happy with what it's doing, I can export it by using that share button right there in the top right corner. And when I click that, I have a couple of choices of making master files or shrunk down compressed files. So part of your storytelling has to be not only what is the story that I'm telling and how am I putting it together, but also on that exporting, where is it going? Where are people going to watch it? Are they going to watch it on a phone? Are they going to watch it on Facebook or on YouTube? Are they going to watch it on a TV and I just need to like get it to a DVD? All those distribution avenues are something you have to think about because it kind of does determine what you build in the first place. Here in the export, you can go directly to YouTube just by clicking on YouTube, and then it'll have you log into your clip. It'll say what's the name of it, and when you go to settings, you log right into your YouTube account and you say, here's how big it is, and this is what the category is, and I want it to either be private where nobody can see it, or unlisted, meaning you have to have a link, or I want it public for everybody to see it. And I can go straight to YouTube from Facebook.
Do you know,
Final Cut.
because I don't do this very often, do the tags transfer over as tags in YouTube?
Yes, those do. Those do. So you really can do kind of a one-stop shop. Once you're done putting something together, you can get it all ready, and that metadata goes up with it. So most people will do either, if it's a big project, you'll do a master file. A master file, think of that as like everything that you've worked on is intact, it's beefy, and it's kind of still moldable, and it's a large file, but you can come back to it. Whereas these down here, these Apple devices are more like a Xerox copy of what you've got. They're just flimsier. You probably can't do a lot of extra editing on top of them or extra, visual effects or anything, but they're perfect for the web. So if it's going up to YouTube or Facebook, or if you're going to even put it on a thumb drive and share it with somebody, you want that size to be smaller compression wise. And so you can choose one of these Apple device selections. You just set the name of it there. Make sure you have the tags that you want. You can even put a full description in it. Again, that metadata travels with it, even if it's an MP4. Click on settings. And then from here, it'll tell you at the bottom, I'm putting on an MP4. It's going to be about 27 megabytes for the size that you have. If you hover that little guy right there, it'll say, this will play on a Mac or a PC. If I come up to the format and I choose Apple devices, now it's showing me like, okay, well, this is on, you're going to have an M4V, and that type of file plays on all these devices. For most things that you do, I think you're going to want to just hit computer because the MP4 is pretty universal. But you can verify and check things here and make sure you have the right clips and the right stories. But in this export, I'm getting something really small that I'm going to be able to share. And when I hit next, it'll just pop up with a window and say, well, where do you want to save this particular piece? Where do you want to put it? And then I would tell it, save it. And then that's the piece that I could, again, put on a hard drive. I could upload to Canvas for Mastergrade or put it up on YouTube for everybody to see. And then the other one, I'll cancel out of this, but the other one is that master file. You get the same setup here. The difference being that it's now 160 megabytes. It's an MOV file. It's still baked, right? I'm not going to be able to re-edit this unless I like cut clips out of it. So it's still baking it, but it is a much larger file because it's keeping all the data that it can. It's not trying to compress anything in a master file, whereas the other export options are trying to flatten it. They're trying to make it so that it still looks good, but it's small enough to send out over the web and to share that way. So those are the two that I use. I'll hold a master for myself, and then when I deliver to a client, I'll say, here's the one you want to put on the web, and if you want to store this somewhere on a hard drive, like, here's the master. But that's kind of the gist of everything. That's bringing it in, taking it out, and getting rid of it. So just to close, I'm going to back up to this page here. I gave a copy of this to Matt so you have some of these tips that I went through, how to import things, play, stop and start, the undo. We didn't talk about snapping. I can hit that if you want. And then, and then deleting. Maybe I should hit those real quick before we jump out. Can we do that, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So two things that I think that are helpful: snapping and deleting. If I have a clip that I don't like, let's do deleting. I have a clip that I don't like, and I hit my big delete button. It will delete it and move everything back to the left. I'm going to Command Z so you'll see that one come back in. But that type of deleting is handy if I don't care about the timing. Sometimes when you've already built things out and you have music underneath and you have certain graphics in places that you want them to stay, that kind of delete will actually like mess things up. And so the other delete on a full keyboard, you'd hit the little backspace, a little delete key. And on my laptop, I hold down function while I hit delete. And notice that it keeps the timing the same, but it puts in a filler block right there in the middle where that clip was. So now I have the same clips in the exact same timing, but that style of delete just lifts that one out of the place and puts a filler in the middle. I can still adjust this, do what I want with it after the fact, but it's black.
I don't think I actually knew that. You taught me something new, or maybe I had forgotten when you taught originally. So when you do the function delete or the backspace, if you have like titles on top of it or music at the bottom that's connected to that clip, it won't delete that.
It won't. So like if this is here, let's say like this is, for some reason I want that to stay there, but this is not the clip that I want. But I don't want to mess up any of the timing. I can do that delete and it's gonna stay.
Well, man, you've just saved me a ton of time. I had forgotten that.
Yeah. So there is kind of a little paradigm shift here. Other editors don't work necessarily the same way. On other editors, you can actually move clips in places and lay them down the timeline minutes away and they don't snap back, and you just can have a different workflow. I used to do that where I would stack up like, oh, I know this clip is going to land 3 minutes from here, so I just drag it and drop it. In Final Cut, it has a magnetic timeline that only took me a little while to get used to, but it changes kind of the way that I edit because I know anything I put on that timeline is going to jump right up against the piece next to it. So I don't have to worry about mistakes, but I also have to know that it's going to be like moving all the time.
Well, I feel like sometimes you run into little snags like this that I didn't know that you could delete things that way, and it kind of messes things up. But for the most part, like, because I used to use, Final Cut Pro 7 didn't have a magnetic timeline, right? And then Premiere doesn't have it, and it saves a ton of time. I think the magnetic timeline does. But
where did we go?
Hello?
Are we back?
Oh, you're back. Could you hear us?
No, I lost you for just a second.
I was just saying I think the magnetic timeline saves a lot of time.
Yes. I've learned that because I started I've edited on every platform, and the magnetic timeline is something that makes me a lot faster.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about it, but there are ways to cut. If I clip my clips here, instead of dragging and dropping, you can actually hit some shortcut keys that correspond with these buttons over here, and they do different styles of drops. And so the E key will actually append whatever clip you've selected in your browser. It'll just dump it right on the end. And that's that button right there, or E. And so if I have a clip, I can just drop E. I just drop like 6 of them, right? They're all right there. So I use those all the time. I will run through a clip like this and I'll say, that's the one I want, E. And I'll step down with my arrow, draw another section, E. Step down with my arrow, draw another section, E. And I'm just building this like thing that I go down and finesse afterward. So I only showed you kind of the drag and drop, but that's another way is to use these buttons to put them where you want them. E goes to the very end. W is gonna like cut in the middle of something. So if I take this clip right here and I'm gonna say my timeline's in the middle of that dark one, now I'm gonna hit W or this button, it just chomps right in the middle. It doesn't even push it out of the way, it just kills it and puts it right over the top. And again, if you know what you're doing, then that can be exactly what you want it to do. And then this other one that I use quite a bit is whatever's up here, you can hit Q, and that's gonna drop it from your timeline, it's gonna drop it on top. So it's not going to mess up your timing. It's just going to give you something that'll stick above or below. And if I want it in the middle, I just hover it, push everybody out of the way, and add it that way. So real quick, I know we're pushing time, but I'm going to show you snapping, and then I'll cut loose. Snapping is something that I use a lot because I like to line up graphics and other things. So I'm going to make a real quick graphic here just by going into the graphics titles. There's just one I made. So I like this one. I'm going to drag it down and just drop it. And there's Raquel. I use snapping, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see it, but I use snapping to make sure that it starts with the clip that I want it to start with. Notice that when I get to an edge of a clip, a yellow line appears, and it says, your frame is the exact same frame as this beginning frame. Or if I have my timeline clicked somewhere, I can come back, and as soon as I'm right on that timeline, it turns yellow. So snapping is a way to kind of say, I want these things to touch. And when I get within a couple of frames, it like jumps. You'll see this kind of go boop, Like I can't even move it. It just jumps to it. That snapping I use all the time. And it's this blue button, if you can see it right here, that has kind of little magnets with the, I don't know what they look like up there. It's clapping sounds. So when I turn that off, if it's white, it's off. Blue is on. But if it's off, notice that wherever I put this, I don't see yellow snap bars anywhere. And that means I can set it down and think that I'm close to where I need to be, but truly I'm like off by a couple of frames, or I can be, I can try and get it close to what I want. And so snapping will kind of take over if you want it to, which allows you to kind of be a little bit more rigid over where you're putting things. Or if you turn snapping off, you can custom, like per frame, drop things where you want. That's the end key. And so even when I pick something up to move it, if it's not snapping and I want it to, I don't have to let go of it. I can just tap in and either turn that snapping on or off, depending on what I tap at that moment. So snapping is something that I use to kind of assemble things together to make sure that clips line up with each other when they're supposed to. And then if I need the nuance, I'll turn it off if I need to. So hopefully that helps you. I think that's probably helpful for like getting things around and navigating. I have this page right here that I've given to Matt that he can share with you. And then finally, like he mentioned, I do have this Facebook page that I use called Drew Tyler that he has a link to. And I talk about some of the things that I missed from school. So I've been talking about graduating and what to do after, finding a job after you graduate. Some of the things I did as an advisor. Most of the people that are following me on here are former students. And apparently they think I have stuff to say that's important, so they follow me. And then I also gave Matt a link to a course that I have on Udemy where I gave him the free code. So you guys, if you wanted to take like an hour, like step-by-step with a little bit more structure, I've got the same stuff on Udemy that's pretty close to what I just talked about, but it's a little bit more structured. And then the advanced version of that is coming out after I get back from Amsterdam, hopefully. But it has everything, color corrections, multicamming, all that stuff is coming in the advanced section. And if you want to know about that stuff now, just ping me on this page and I can upload the videos that I have already. So with that, I will give back to you, Mr. Matt.
Well, awesome. That was great. Everyone give Drew a round of applause. So thank you. You were like, is this your student? So you were like literally the best first guest speaker to have, because that was like a really fantastic review of things that we went over, and then new things that they didn't know that I feel like are helpful tips as well. So thank you very much, and good luck in Amsterdam tomorrow. So it's a Facebook project there?
Yeah, so we're running 4 or 5 days at the International Broadcast Conference, and my job was to program out a studio that's in the middle of our space. So as people are walking through the show, they can practice their, or we're doing social video interactions, so live voting and live polling on your Facebook Lives. And so I program the whole thing. I get to do a couple of live demos as well as run the studio, so that we have probably 5 or 6 shows a day that we're just demoing, like, oh, I can vote, I can do, live. I love live, so I'm excited. It's gonna be good.
Cool. Okay, I just have one question for you. Sorry, we need to get back to our class stuff. But so, do you still use OBS, or does Facebook like have their own tool now that they're coming out with?
Good question. For live, Facebook has always had its own version of like pushing content, or, bigger stuff into it. But if you want to add some of those elements of graphics and some of the interactions and things, you can use OBS. And so we have people that use vMix, OBS, Wirecast, like all of those still interface really nicely and still give those interactive tools. We've started using OBS for our graphics specifically because we can graphically show all the comments on screen and all the, like Twitch. We're basically like Twitch on like normal videos. So it's pretty cool. I love live.
Well, awesome. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you later.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a great day. Listen to Matt. He knows what he's doing.